Okay, so, all right. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to present my UDL inspired classroom. I did a kindergarten classroom. I also didn't have a group. I chose to do it by myself. So this is my classroom climate. So first we have our physical classroom climate. That's the first subject we're going to go over. This is how I organize and set up my classroom for a positive learning experience. So the first thing we're going to go over is our seating. I'm going to have my kindergartners in table groups. Students have the opportunity to sit and work with their table groups and to discuss questions with their group when asked by their teachers. I think it's just much more reasonable for younger students to be in table groups. They can talk to each other and, it's not as scary, especially if it's your first year in school, to be around other kids much more closer. So then we have posters / wall decor. The walls will be covered in motivational posters that promote messages to students, daily reminders that they're capable. Even if they cannot read yet, just, keywords like happy, smile, are something they may recognize. And this correlates with promoting expectations and beliefs that optimize motivation. So then we have an engaging classroom theme. Teachers often have a student-friendly classroom theme that they use to help engage students. So I chose the theme of community helpers. This also correlates with the social studies standard for kindergarten in Arizona, which is community. This also correlates with optimizing relevance, value, and authenticity. Learning about doctors, firefighters, policemen, that is something that's very relevant to their lives, as that's what they're going to be learning about all year round in school. So that is something I will definitely be incorporating in my classroom. Next, we have classroom jobs. Students will be given classroom jobs to be changed every 1 to 2 weeks. This will help students feel a part of their classroom community and feel like they have a specific reason to be in class that day. Makes them feel like, it's not just their classroom, or it's not just the teacher's classroom, it's also their classroom. So it gives them a sense of pride. Then we have our cool off corner. So this is a timeout zone, a space in the classroom for a student who may find themselves emotional or socially overwhelmed. They can go there to cool down, think about how their body's feeling. The teacher may also guide the student to spend time in the cool off corner if the teacher thinks they need it. There'll be sensory toys, a chart to help students understand the emotions they're feeling. And this correlates with facilitating personal coping skills and developing self-assessment strategies. Our next subject is how to set up, it's daily schedule. And this is how I set up my daily classroom schedule and incorporate my students. So first thing is the physical schedule. So the teacher will have the posted schedule on the board every day with movable things to switch for when our schedule switches that day. And we will have an arrow pointing to where we are at every day that the teacher will move. Correlates with facilitating, managing information and resources. So one of our class jobs could be a schedule monitor. So that's where the arrow comes along. The arrow will be moved to whatever subject we are at in the day. And if a teacher forgets to move it, the schedule monitor will quietly walk up, move the arrow to where it needs to be, and go sit down. Again, this fosters collaboration and community, gives students a sense of pride, helps students recognize that the teacher is in charge, but it is everyone's classroom, and you have a reason to be there, and you have a reason to be helpful. So I definitely wanted to incorporate a multilingual schedule. I work at a Title I school with many Spanish-speaking ELLs. So having the schedule with the Spanish word right next to the English word is great. It helps the students be reminded of what the words that match with each other. And then also having those visuals next to the words as well, which is actually what we're going to talk about next. Picture visuals for kids who are learning to read is super important. I also liked how this picture included visuals of the clock, which is important for kids telling time. And this goes with representation, illustration through multiple media. So now we're going to move on to classroom expectations. This is how I include my students in creating classroom goals and setting classroom rules and norms to follow on a daily basis. So, classroom rules and norms and goals. We will have a set of classroom rules and norms we go over every day at morning meeting. These rules help the students to remember what the expectations are, not only in the classroom, but throughout the school when they are with their classmates. The rules are our goals to achieve every day. So I really liked how this teacher had their students sign their names as a great reminder to that they promised the teacher that they would follow these rules. And this correlates with guide appropriate goal setting. Feedback. When a student fails to remember the classroom rules and expectations, it is important for the teacher to provide feedback and remind the student of what they did wrong and how they can fix the situation next time so they can ensure that they are following the classroom rules. This correlates with increasing mastery-oriented feedback. And we want to include feedback that is non-comparative or competitive. We then have praise. So at my school I work in now, we use happygrams. Happygrams are a great way to write the kids individual notes about which goals they achieved that day and how they followed the classroom rules or school rules and set a great example. You write their name, you give it to the student at the end of the week, they can turn in their happygram to the office and they can get something from the treasure box. So this correlates with guide appropriating goal setting and engagement optimizing individual choice, which is you have the choice to choose what you want from the treasure box. You also have the choice to choose if you want to follow the goals for that week. We then have consequences. If a student forgets about the rules and norms of the classroom, they'll receive feedback. But if a student purposefully ignores the rules and norms for their own self-gratification, that's a different issue. These students will have to talk to the teacher. The teacher may have to heighten the prominence of the classroom goals. This may include a step-by-step guide created between the teacher and student, or that might be the student having to take recess time, bench time to talk about the goals of the teacher. And this might include the teacher going to the cool down corner to think about the goals and what they did wrong, or it may include a behavior reflection sheet that they have to complete. We then have our classroom rules and routines. So this is just highlighting some of our daily routines, how we work together as a class team to engage in these routines. First of these routines, morning meeting. Morning meeting is very important to young kids. Routine creates stability and familiarization in a child's life. The daily repetition of unloading your backpack, placing your things in your cubby, sitting at your desk, following the directions of the teacher, super important for the growth of a student and allows for the exception of other routines in the students' lives. This correlates with engagement, minimizing threats and distractions by, following those routines daily. And then I like how they have the visualization of what can be posted around the classroom to remind the students of what they're supposed to do when they get into class. We then have turning in work, another very important routine. Again, having these visual reminders, telling the kids what to do. If a kid is having a hard time remembering what to do during this period, especially if it's like a transition period, then the teacher needs to revisit these expectations with the class as an individual level or group level, which correlates with representation, maximizing transfer, and generalization. Then we have circle time and whole group. During circle time, the teacher should reduce the risk of distractions so that the student can focus on learning. This may be turning off electronics, closing the blinds, closing the doors, getting rid of noises and sounds. And this ensuring that all students are engaged in whole group and participated in whole groups so they can focus on learning instead of their wandering thoughts. Then we have our classroom crisis plan. This is systems I have in place to teach and protect my students in emergency situations. So first, what are my students going to do if there is an emergency and there is no adult in the room? So this is something we will go over with the students. Maybe like if the teacher uses the bathroom or steps out for a second and there's an emergency with a kid, someone faints, there's a medical emergency, maybe the teacher faints, the students need to know what to do and where to go. They need to work together as a community to, solve the issue at hand the best they can. We then have lockdowns. Situations where lockdowns may occur becoming more and more common. Students need to be reminded of the routine of what to do when an administrator comes on the speakers and tells us there's a lockdown. Students should be going over lockdowns monthly. The routines, the reminders, visual reminders, great example. Working as a community, fostering collaboration is, something we have to do in these situations. And then representation through multiple media, visual examples, verbal examples, maybe even video examples to show students, but having these posted around the class, extremely important. Same thing for fire drills, having the visual examples posted, reading a book, maybe watching a video, what to do during a fire drill, remembering that a fire drill isn't scary. That's just something we have to practice in case we are in a scary real life situation. Lastly, we have violent outbreaks in the classroom. I work in a Title I, like I mentioned before, I do work in a Title I school. We have lots of difficult behaviors that I've come across. And sometimes there is situations where a student is acting physical, acting violent, maybe throwing chairs, throwing things, hurting a teacher, hurting another student. When those students hear a teacher yell to get out, they need to know to get out right away. They need to know where to go when a teacher yells to get out. They need to know what to do. Again, monthly reminders of what to do in these situations. If teacher yells for you to get out of the room, you need to get out. You need to know what teacher to go do. You need to know who to grab. You need to know how to work together as a team to best help your teacher solve this situation as a 6-year-old. Students must work together. They need to use their listening skills and understand the severity of the situation. This is correlation with fostering collaboration in community, minimizing threats and distractions. So thank you. That is how I would incorporate UDL principles into my kindergarten classroom.